President Trump is in trouble again today. He is in trouble again because somebody on his comms team decided, you know what'd be smart? Let's put him in front of George Stephanopoulos at ABC News. How could this one go wrong? Okay, comms team, what are you doing? Why would you do this? Who do you think you are winning over when you put Trump in a room with George Stephanopoulos? Okay, George Stephanopoulos is a Clintonista hack. Not only is he a Clintonista hack, he obviously took talking points manufactured by the DNC in 2012 to lead the war on women charge against Mitt Romney. Okay, so now you're putting him in a room with President Trump. I can't imagine how this would go wrong. That in and of itself is a problem. Then you have the problem of President Trump, perhaps the most stubborn man ever to live, doubling down on his worst impulses. So I am not a fan, to put it mildly, of the notion that when President Trump was approached by a foreign government, namely the Russian government, and given dirt on Hillary Clinton, that he didn't call up the FBI. Now, I will point out here two things. One, that is not illegal. And two, Hillary Clinton did do the same thing with the Ukrainian government. So it is true that the Ukrainian government was trying to pass dirt on President Trump onto Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton's team took it, didn't say anything about it. Now, the Ukrainian government is not militantly opposed to the United States government in the same way that Vladimir Putin is. So there is a distinction there, but Hillary should have reported that too. It is also true that the Steele dossier was largely based, the Steele dossier, which was the basis for a lot of the Trump-Russia collusion charges, and was basically a fantasy made up by a bunch of Russian operatives. Basically, Christopher Steele, this former British spy, went over to Russia, talked with a bunch of Russian government officials, and then funneled that information to the Hillary Clinton campaign. So while you can say the Hillary Clinton campaign got that information not directly from the Russian government, they got it from Christopher Steele, in effect, they were taking Russian government-created intel that was false about Trump and then disseminating that inside the halls of power in Washington, D.C., and trotting it out to the media as well. So with all of those caveats, the fact that the Trump administration was openly approached by members of the Russian government and allies with the Russian government to take dirt on Hillary Clinton and didn't report it to the FBI was a low point in American politics. It was ugly and it was wrong. There's a difference between illegal and wrong. It is not illegal for a foreign government to say, here's some oppo on your opponent and you take the oppo and you run with it. That's not illegal. Okay, it would be illegal if there was a quid pro quo. Right? If you said, okay, I'm going to take the oppo and later I'm going to give you this thing under the table, right? That's bribery. But Eugene Volokh has written, professor of law at UCLA, he wrote a long post at the Washington Post probably 4 years ago now, talking specifically about whether it would be illegal if a member of the government of Turkey approached Hillary Clinton with info about Trump for her to use that information. The answer he came up with, and I think that his legal analysis is correct, is no. Now, with that said, would it behoove the President of the United States to simply say, if I am approached by a foreign government with intel about my opponents, I will talk to the FBI about it? Yes, it would, particularly because the President of the United States, he was not, according to the Mueller report, involved in the Trump Tower meeting. He was not apprised of the Trump Tower meeting. He was not in the loop on that thing. So it'd be very easy for him to say, listen, knowing what I didn't know then, I was just a guy, right? I was running for president. I didn't know anything. I didn't know this stuff. But now I know, of course I would go to the FBI if somebody approached me on that sort of stuff. You live, you learn, and now I wouldn't do that. Instead, President Trump, who has never met a thing he will not double down upon, he's asked about this, and here was his response.
Your campaign this time around, if foreigners, if Russia, if China, if someone else offers you information on an opponent, should they accept it or should they call the FBI?
I think maybe you do both. I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening. If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it. If I thought there was something wrong, I'd go maybe to the FBI.
Okay, and then he continued by saying, well, maybe he wouldn't go to the FBI because no one really wants to go to the FBI. Now, again, what he says on a legal level is basically correct, but on a moral level, it is not obviously correct. And not only is it not obviously correct, on a political level, it is very wrong, right? On a political level, you're running for president. You've been enmeshed in this whole you're colluding with Russia thing for years at this point. Wouldn't you just say no? Wouldn't you just say no? Like, I wouldn't take the information, and also I would pass that along to the FBI. Wouldn't you just say that? It's a weird thing to say. Now, William Barr, the Attorney General, was asked about exactly this subject about a month and a half ago by Chris Coons, the senator from Delaware. And Chris Coons asked Barr about whether you should report it to the FBI if somebody approaches you with information. And here was William Barr, the Attorney General's answer.
What if a foreign adversary, let's now say North Korea, offers a presidential candidate dirt on a competitor in 2020? Do you agree with me the campaign should immediately contact the FBI? If a foreign intelligence service, a representative of a foreign government says, we have dirt on your opponent, should they say, I love it, let's meet, or should they contact the FBI?
If a foreign intelligence service does, yes.
Okay, so Barr makes a distinction there on a legal basis between a foreign intelligence service and a foreign government. Coons basically broadens it out to a foreign government. And people are saying that's Barr giving wiggle room to Trump. And there's two questions here, the legal and the moral. On the legal side, Trump ain't wrong. On the moral side, it is a very dicey proposition at best to be taking information from America's enemies just because they happen to be giving you information about your political opponent. I find it disgusting. I find it wrong. And if Hillary Clinton did it, people on the right would be yelling and screaming about it.